Up, Scoop podcast? I'm your host, Erica Krupin. And on today's episode, we have an awesome guest. We have Levi from Swoop Scoops. He
Whoop.
is, yeah, whoop, whoop. I love it. So if you guys have not watched or listened to episode, I believe it's episode 53, after you're done with today's episode, go back to that one because Levi and William are partners in Swoop Scoop, and he's the second half, better half. I don't know, however you want to call yourself. Welcome to the show, Levi.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I was really excited a few weeks back when I posted something on YouTube and William commented, it was on my six-figure business. And he's like, hey, I got a seven-figure business. Of course, I was like, what? Say more. And so William and you we've been in a communication with each other. And I'm going to let the cat out of the bag. You both are coaching me now
Yeah.
because your girl wants to get to a $500,000 and then to $1 million in business. And you are the guys to help me get there.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pretty massive journey for us. We started in September 2020 and we just hit 3 years in business. I guess last month. It's been quite a ride, I'll tell you. We're on track for about 1.5 million this year and things seem to be going really well.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. All right.
Thank you.
So a lot of times I get asked, I talk about elevator pitches, and some of our listeners are like, "Well, what exactly is an elevator pitch? How do you do that?" So if you could give us your elevator pitch, your highlight reel.
Yeah, for sure. So I used to go to like a once a week networking thing, and you'd always kind of brainstorm fun ideas. You'd have to like go up and present and give your pitch. So this is one that I used to use. It's going to discuss the service. So, are you tired of stepping in landmines left by your furry friend in the yard? Is the chore of cleaning up after your dog getting in the way of spending quality time with them? Do you want your outdoor space to be odor free and enjoyable for your friends and family? Well, look no further. At Swoop Scoop, we've got your back, or should you say, your backyard. Our Pooper Scooper service will transform your yard into a pristine space, all while giving your pup the healthy environment they deserve. So, why choose us? Number one, our pet loving team takes care of the dirty work so you can focus more on playtime. Number two, we use pet safe sanitation products on our tools to ensure your yard remains germ free. And lastly, we have different cleanup options available to fit your busy lifestyle. Feel free to visit swoopscoop.com to get your instant quote today.
Oh, I love it. I love
Okay.
it.
I was kind of nervous. I was like, what if Erica thinks it's bad?
No, I mean you hit the point. You told people um, what you do and how to get in contact with you. So there you go.
Yeah,
Yours is
yeah.
yours is better than mine. My elevator pitch where people are like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I pick up dog poop and people pay me for it." And then I wait and they're like, "Wait, what?" And then I kick over into the rest of it. But I enjoy like when I have that conversation with people, I like the dumbfounded look on their face. They're like, "Huh?"
Yeah, it's such a that's the one thing that's been so fun about this too is like you tell somebody, even like what you said, you keep it short and it'll just start like a line of 20 questions. There's just like, that's a thing? You do what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's times though, because I'm trying to be better about this. I'm trying to, because I can be selfish. I can be like, the show's on me. I like the attention. And so when I talk about the poop scooping, a lot of times all the attention gets on me. And I'm like, oh, Erica, that's so rude. Sometimes I need to shut it down and then turn it back onto the other people because then at the end of the event or whatever it is, I feel like I've just talked and I didn't get to know anybody else or find out anything about anybody else. And
Mhm.
so yeah, this type of business is definitely like a show stealer.
It for sure is.
Yeah.
Really is. And like especially like when we first started, I like walked into I made like a target list of all the dog companies in town, the groomers, the trainers, the vet offices, and like it's not like you're a real estate selling something. Everybody's gotten all these calls trying to sell you this or that insurance. It's investment advising. It's just something different that people are I found are a lot more receptive when you say, "Hey, I scoop dog poop." It's just
Yeah.
different. It's fun.
It is. Yeah, I mean, then you get some people that are like, "Okay, bye. Bye. I don't want nothing to do with you." You're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, whatever. You're not
hmm
cool." All right. Well, what led you? Well, this is like a two-part question. I'm curious. How did you meet Will? And then what led you to Swoop Scoops?
Yeah. So William and I actually grew up as friends. So we went to elementary school, middle school, high school together. We both just turned 30, and we always kind of joked around about starting a business together after some thought. And then he opened an electrical company, and they went from like zero to $1 million in like 6 months. And I was like, "Hey, dude, we should really do something together." I know we talked about it, but like, and I was doing social work at the time, and I just wanted to make a change because I was unhappy. So basically, that kind of sparked the idea. And he's like, "All right, we'll go look into something and see what you like and see what might be a good business idea." So I looked into some different things. I wanted to do some kind of service industry. I looked into carpet cleaning. I looked into being like a locksmith. I like the fact that the locksmith had, there was like low competition and it solved like a real problem, right? You're locked out of your car or your house, you need to get in. And I thought that you could scale it. But and then he said, "Hey, I actually just hired somebody last month to come clean up my backyard. Why don't you go look into that?" And like I immediately loved it because I'm not super technically like mechanically driven. I was like, oh boy, I'd have to learn how to do this with the locksmith or how to fix this tool or do that. So I just loved it right off the bat. I was like, I could scoop dog poop. I already have. I've done it
Right.
for a long time. So I did kind of my own research. I found a book. Is I think it was called The Professional Pooper Scooper. It was like a 250-page book by a guy named Matthew Osborne, and he's the original founder of Pet Butler. So I read that, and I just got kind of captivated and gravitated towards the industry. I thought it was really interesting. The story behind it. It's been around since like, gosh, the late '70s, probably the pet waste removal industry, and there was only like less than 10 in 1988, I think. So something like that, just a handful. So I was just kind of captivated by that and the whole story. And then I actually called around our town to see, I did some research to see how many companies there were. There was like four or five, and they'd been around for anywhere from like 5 to 10 years. And I noticed kind of like a recurring theme when I would call in to different companies, whether it was in our town or like around the West Coast. They'd answer the phone, "Hello, hi, is this XYZ company?" "Yeah." So
Hmm.
I felt like I feel like the way you answer your phone kind of like reflects a lot about how you run your business. And I really felt that there was some holes in the industry that we could have kind of just done better. And so I was like, let's do this. So was working my job at the time, put a little cargo rack on the back of my SUV and put a trash can on the back and just kind of figured it out from there. And then me and William basically just hit the ground running after that. And then it scaled up quick.
It did. Now, I feel you on how people answer the phone. You definitely have to have that professional first time interaction with a customer. So, if you don't mind, can you give the listeners an example of the right way to answer a phone?
Yeah. So, brr, brr. Hi, my name's Levi. Thanks so much for calling Swoop Scoop. How may I help you today?
I'm looking for some dog poop scooping. Can you help me out?
I certainly can. Can I ask you a couple questions to provide you with an estimate?
I love it. See, you guys that are listening, that's how you answer a phone. You do not just say hello because people are like, wait, what is it? Is this a business? And you don't want that. You're setting a bad tone right away, and they're not going to have the respect for you that that you need to run a business. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go back. So you started with a car with a cargo trailer and a trash can on the back of the trailer.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I got a trailer hitch ball and then I put it on the SUV and then I held the little cargo rack and then I had a garbage can because we took the waste with us and we
Mhm.
still do. So I had that on the back with some straps. And then I was still trying to figure out what tools to use. I had no idea. I went on like eBay and I did some research and then I found something called like the poo wand or something. I don't know if you've heard of this, Erica. It's
No.
basically it's like a stick and then you put like a grocery bag inside of it. It's not even like a big 12-gallon, 13-gallon trash bag. It's like a tiny thing. And I was like, this isn't working. I tried it for like 3 days and I'm like, this is not good. It takes me like 35 minutes to clean a yard. And then I just kind of explored with different tools. And then I found, I really personally like the red rake, the Corona rake, the extendable cultivator, and then the big yellow dustpan. That's what we use now. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah, you guys must have not have seen my video of the supplies that I use for my poop scooping business.
Well, I just wanted to try everything.
No, I know there's a lot of debate, right, of what the proper tools are. I think a lot of us agree that that yellow dustpan bucket by Quickie is where it's at, but the rake is where a lot of people have their preferences. And you like the cultivator. That's too heavy for my lady arm, so I use the the children's garden rake from Lowe's.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Those are
but
pretty good too, yeah.
yeah, for sure. So it sounds like to me you take care of like the operations part because you and Will are partners. So can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for basically the operations. So if you broke it down in a couple categories, so like service fulfillment, making sure the yards are cleaned every day, making sure the phone and the emails are responded to in the office, and then I set up like weekly leadership phone calls with like my office manager and my field manager just to check in, and then we have like a 30-minute conversation to make sure everything's going accordingly. And then, like, if you want to look at billing and invoicing, I just make sure that the customers are billed, the initials are billed every day and the correct amounts. And then we prepay, or our customers prepay on the first of the month. So to making sure the money's in on the first, and then, we'll get like anywhere from 5 to 10% of invoices that fail, which is like over 100 on the first. So we just kind of reach out to people and get the money in. So I'm kind of on top of that. Staff training and development, I help train and hire any new key staff. We have a field manager that takes care of the field stuff, but more so, I'm really involved with like the office stuff, training customer service reps, the office manager, social media specialist, things like that. I check in once or twice a week with our field manager, whether that's touching base on like employee productivity. And so Nick's his name. Hey Nick, how are we doing in the field this week? Do you feel like anybody how are the new people doing? Do you feel like their productivity is up to speed? Do they need any speed training? Do they need help with anything? How does the quality look in their yards? Does there need to be like any disciplinary measurements that need to be taken? Has anybody gotten written up lately? And then we talk about like fleet maintenance. Okay, when are the trucks getting in and getting oil changes or new tires or this and that? And then I check in with the office team as well. So like, what are customers calling in about right now? What are some of the main reasons they're trying to cancel, or how many people are we closing every day? Just stuff like that. And then I keep an eye on pretty closely on like the metrics. So like, how many subscriptions have we sold every day? Where are the leads coming from? How many people canceled today? How many missed calls are we getting in the office, if any? Response time, are we picking up the phone on like the second ring? And then I also pull like random phone calls from the office just to kind of do a quick audit to make sure everything sounds good, everybody's following the scripts or whatever. And then lastly is more of like administrative tasks. So just doing the same two thing what I just talked about for the other two locations we launched this year. So we're in Seattle and then Salem, Oregon. And then I brainstorm a lot with William just on how we can optimize the location and run as efficiently as possible.
Business owners that are listening, if you're like, I don't understand why I'm so tired because of all the things, everything that you just said, a lot of us are doing that all by ourselves because we're still under that $100,000, right? We're still smaller. But the cool thing is since you've grown, you've been able to delegate because you've been able to put the people in the proper position. So I kind of want to just go back to a couple things that you talked about there. One, with the invoicing, you say you bill everybody on the first of the month and the cards get declined. Can you explain what the process is like when they get declined and you're reaching out to the customer? How are you doing that? And then at what point do you stop servicing them and say, nope, you haven't paid. I'm not moving forward with you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So everybody prepays on the first, so we don't run the risk of if we did a whole month of services and then we bill them afterwards, we don't run the risk of not getting paid. So we prepay them on the first, and then the reasons that the invoices fail on the software. I mean, it could be insufficient funds. It could be they got a new car and it expired. Right, they got a new one in the mail. They forgot to tell us. All different sorts of reasons. But basically, if they don't pay us on the first, we'll pause their account and we don't clean at all, like no free cleanups. And then we'll touch base with them. We'll say, hi, Erica, this is Levi with the Swoop Scoop office. Hope you're having a wonderful day. I just wanted to let you know I tried billing for the month of November and the invoice actually failed. Would you like me to try to run it again, or do you have a different card we can put on file? We would need to get this resolved in order for us to resume with service, to continue with servicing your home or whatever. And everybody wants the yard picked up. So pretty much, I would say out of like probably 100 that we get every month, at least like 90 of them reply the same day, and then we can just get it in right away. And then it takes a while to hunt down like the last 10 or 15 people. And then usually I expect about anywhere from 5 to 6 every month just to not get just they just don't get back to us, and then we ultimately at the end of the month we cancel their account. But I will follow up with them every day until we at least receive some kind of reply. Right, we'll call them, we'll send them a text. "Hey, just following up on this. I gave you a call yesterday. I'm just trying to square up on your account or whatever." So we'll reach out every day until we hear something, because you have to be on top of it, right?
Yeah.
They probably want the service. They're probably just really busy with life. So we're just trying to help them as well. So
Yeah, that makes sense because I was actually looking through my stuff and I didn't stay on top of them. So I have about $500 of past due invoices that my lack of communication, staying on top of people, and we continue doing service for them.
yeah,
And I know a lot of our listeners do that because we feel like we're like, oh, they're going to get back to us. So we keep on servicing them and then doesn't work out that way.
yeah, I think it's really important that you follow whatever your standard operating like whatever your standard procedure is. Ours just happens to be we don't clean, but I think it's a very good idea if you adopt our strategy of doing that. But I think it's almost bigger than that too, because as you grow, it becomes more and more important to follow. You have to be a stickler for the rules. Kind of, you need to follow your standard operating procedures, whether it's billing or not giving time frames for customers or whatever rules you create for your business. You need to follow those because it just gets harder and harder as you scale up. It's just it's a whole different ball game, really. So I think you have to follow the rules that you set within your company.
Yeah.
So no exceptions, really.
Now, for somebody that doesn't have a standard operating procedure, how would you suggest somebody even start doing that?
I think you should think, well, what's best for my employees? What's best for my business? Um, and then make decisions based on that. And then just make sure you don't have to have it per se on paper, but you need to say, hey, I'm deciding to do this for my business. And then I'm not going to make an exception, no matter what the story is from a customer or no matter what, right? You just need to follow your rules because at the end of the day, you're trying to run a business and you have employees to support, you have bills to pay. And there's a lot of customers that depend on us to show up. So I think you just have to follow whatever your procedures are.
No, I love that. I love that. Now, what's speed training? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I would say from my experience, a new person starting right off the bat, they'll probably do anywhere from like 15 to 18 yards in a shift. I would say if you're cleaning like because we offer weekly cleanups, every 2 week cleanups, and once a month cleanups, so you can get really anything, right? So I would say in general, when they first start for like the first 2 weeks, they're probably cleaning 15 to 18 yards a day, and then as they have more experience, they'll get maybe after a month they'll clean around 20 to 23 yards a day, and then 2 months they should be around 25 to 30. All of our people clean 30 yards a day. But there are, when new people start, we keep a close eye on their performance and how fast they're cleaning yards and then their quality as well. So if somebody's basically behind on what I just talked about with the goals of the time frames, we'll sit down with them and we'll talk to them and say, hey, it's kind of came to our attention that that you might need some assistance with some speed training in the field, to figure out what's going on exactly, and then figure out what exactly is slowing them down. And then they will work with their team leader or their field or our field manager, whoever reports to them, and they'll take them out for like a whole day with somebody who's trained up and does 30 to 35, and then they can see exactly what it looks like. Instead of saying it's like this is what it like, just clean 30 yards. We take them out for the whole day. They'll ride in the passenger seat so they can see it's possible, right? We all do it, but it's sometimes it's just like hard to believe it when you're new unless you've seen it, right? So my whole rule is so like let's say somebody's riding with Nick. Don't slow down for the person. Just do your regular route. Get out of the truck and load your bags and disinfect your stuff just how you normally would. Don't wait up for the person just so they can see like what the pace looks like. And what I found is it really seems to help a lot of the new folks or anybody that's kind of below the threshold that's acceptable for us. And they seem to make a lot of quick strides. So I would do it anyways, but it's most certainly like a great use of time if you're experiencing any sort of like productivity issues in that capacity, if that makes sense.
I know it's a good idea. Like you said, the trainer, don't slow down. Just get out of the truck. Because any of us that have trained, we notice like we get out of the truck and we have our flow. And then we're like, oh, I got to slow down to show the new person like in the beginning. So, I love that.
Yeah, I would say I'm usually really, really flexible for like the first month. So, however somebody performs, if they're doing the 20 yards or the 18 or whatever, I want them to get like a foundation and learn. And then once they for sure know the job, then we'll come in and talk to them, and then we'll do actual like speed training. Cause what I've even done it myself before, and it's always the little things that count. It's how long it takes you to load the dustpan with the bag, and then strolling over to the fence, and locking the gate and taking the
Mhm.
gate photo, and then disinfecting your stuff. It's always kind of, I notice the little things, as well as like the pace that you walk in the yards. Basic Some people just go a little bit too slow, and they don't realize they could go faster without missing piles. They
Yeah.
just aren't sure.
No, I totally agree. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for sharing. I think Crystal needs to put me through speed training, actually. Crystal does 30 houses. She could even do 35 houses in a day. No, I can't do it. I'm not doing it. I got
Yeah.
I got too much going on like right now. I try. I think I tried to do 25 houses like not too long ago. I was like, I've been out scooping for 10 hours. Somebody fire me right now. Oh, that's funny. All right. So I love that you and William are business partners. Now, I'm sure there's some pros and some cons to it. So you want to talk on that a little bit?
I guess with any partnership, there's definitely pros and cons. I would say I'm a really big believer of partnering up with somebody, just because you can get so much more work done with two people. But you have to be very specific who you pick. I think you should pick somebody who complements you well and has skills in certain areas that you might not. And then you can kind of fill the gaps in between each other. Like, for example, with William, he's kind of I would say he's for sure the visionary. And he also has a ton of business experience. He's had companies before opening this, and I never had before. And I would also say that I love training and I love operations in general, and I really like building procedures. I like making just forms, right? Like incident report forms and operations manual. I built like 100-page operations manual, how to run our business. It's like 50,000 words. Like I like doing stuff like that, and he doesn't like doing stuff like that, right? So I feel like we work really together in that sense. And also like we have like basically two goals, which is to serve as many dog lovers as we can and help them, and then make as much money as possible. So we've always been pretty aligned with that. So I feel like we work really well together. Some cons, I guess, would be depending on whatever partnership you go into. If it's like a 50-50 thing, like we're 50-50, that can pose some problems possibly. If you don't agree on something that's like a big deal for the business, then you can't really do anything about it. Like you just kind of sit there until you both come to like a consensus on how you want to do something, because unless it's in your operating agreement that one person has influence and can make decisions for the company over the other person, then you just some things won't get done because you both have the same amount of power, I guess. And then if you own the majority of the company, then the minority shareholder, you could run into some problems too if the majority shareholder is making decisions that the other person doesn't agree with. So it really kind of depends on what your structure is and the ownership stakes and all of that. But I really do believe in having partnerships, because I think you can get a lot more done.
Yeah, the common theme I'm hearing is communication. You got to be able to communicate as partners, and then you want to be able to communicate with your customers effectively and with your staff.
Yeah, and then you both kind of have to have the same strategic vision in a sense long term, I think.
No, I think that's really good. I've had people reach out to me when I was starting my business wanting to like partner up with me, and the things that they would talk about and even the questions that I would ask them about how they would handle a situation with a customer. I'm like, "You don't care about people. Like you just care about the money." And obviously money is important, but you got to focus on the people and then the profits will follow.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah, even going further, it's even taking care of your employees, like really it all starts with that. So if you pay your people well and you take care of your people and they're happy with where they work, they'll take care of the customers, and then the customers, it just happens in the end, the customers will take care of your business.
Yeah, and you guys were able to grow pretty fast. You guys haven't been in business that long. So when you got to let's say like a $500,000, like what does a $500,000 pooper scooper business look like?
Yeah, good questions. So to break it down, I guess with the structure at 500 clients, you're gonna have probably around 3 full-time scoopers doing about 30 yards a day. You'll have ideally a manager or a supervisor. I think the best way to do it personally is if you had the office person do this who was a little bit of cross trained on they at least know what's going on in the field. And then you don't have to have like a full blown field manager. You can have somebody who, because it's not that tough to manage 3 people, especially if somebody in the office who already knows what's going on with on the customer side. The calls are coming in, the complaints are coming to them, right? They know exactly what's going on in the field. So I believe that the office person should do kind of the field management, and then if you yourself, the owner, wants to get completely out of the field, you would have an additional part-time scooper doing like initials or overflow, or somebody calls out, they can kind of fill in. But assuming you have like a 4% monthly churn, so like 4% of your customers are canceling out every month, to maintain $500,000 in like subscription revenue, you'll have around 20 cancellations a month. So you'll need to sign up at least 20 subscribers a month to maintain the $500,000 point, if that makes sense.
You guys, they had me do this math behind the scenes to figure out the churn rate and all of it. And I was thinking back to myself when I was in high school and I was like, I'm never going to do this kind of math when I grow up. I was having flashbacks. I'm like, oh goodness. But when I actually figured out what the churn rate is, I was like, oh, okay. This is great. Now I feel like I'm starting to understand some stuff behind the scenes. And you guys are really good about teaching how to figure out the churn rate, which thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
It's
Yeah.
important to keep it simple, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I think at the 500,000 point, at this point, your time's worth a lot more than $20 an hour, $25 an hour in the field. It's really important that you get out of the field. So instead of cleaning yards, your time's best spent on growing the business, developing some training procedures, tracking some of your numbers, and really trying to optimize the location. That's my opinion for that.
So yeah, developing those procedures and that's like the SOP, the standard operating procedures, refining all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. And then let's talk big. What does $1 million business look like?
Yeah. Um, so assuming that your average customer pays about 85 bucks a month, which could be more, could be less, that's around 1,000 recurring customers on your census. You'll have about 5 full-time scoopers doing about 30 yards a day. You'll have a field manager in place. You'll have a lead scooper as well. And then you'll have an office manager at this point, because at 1,000 clients, I'd say that's a good number to that an office. It's a good amount of work for an office manager to do, or somebody in the office is 1,000 clients. There's a lot going on with calls and emails and this and that. When you get around to $1 million, I think building a corporate hierarchy and operating on a chain of command model becomes basically essential. There's going to be a lot going on both in the field and the office. So, like, certain functions and lines of communication need to be delegated to the correct people. So, like with our structure, we have the technicians, and then we have the lead scooper. So every lead scooper has 3 technicians underneath them. The lead scooper and then they report to the lead scooper. The 3 technicians report to the lead, and then the lead has pretty close to a full route. But in between that, they can do quality checks. They can keep an eye on the productivity, the speed of their people, any sort of disciplinary measures, write ups that need to happen. The lead checks in with the field manager. I also have the lead people check the gate photos. We take good photos of gates after every cleanup, and we have like records of every gate photo we've ever done. So for the week, they'll pull like some gate photos randomly to make sure it all looks good. They're not just taking the picture of the front of the gate; they're actually like getting the locking mechanism behind it. Um, they'll do like speed training if they need to, and then maybe like helping with the truck fleet maintenance as needed. So that's kind of what a lead does. So he's in charge of the 3 technicians, or she's in charge of the 3 technicians, and then the lead reports to the field manager. The field manager kind of does the same thing as a lead for their own team. They have like I usually like to put 3 to 4 newer employees on the field manager, and then I like to have like maybe the more seasoned and experienced technicians under the lead, because the field manager has more. ideally more experience and knowledge, so they can offer more help to the newer employees as well. And then the field manager is also responsible for hiring in the field. So if they need to promote more lead scoopers, or if they need to hire more technicians, they pretty much are the eye on the field. They know exactly what's going on all the time. And then lastly, I have the field manager and then the office manager work together. They're kind of like on an equal playing field, just for different facets of the business. I like for them to work together really closely because the office manager knows exactly what's going on, and like I said, if there's any complaints or the routing, because they do the routing the day before, they know what the routes look like, and then the manager knows kind of what's going on in the field, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, are you hiring these people for that specific position for the like the manager, or are you moving them up from within?
Every person has been promoted internally, like our leads and our field managers. I really believe in that. If you can, like, find somebody who is like a leader in their role. This doesn't mean being a leader doesn't mean you have to be the CEO, right? It's somebody who really gives a damn about their job, and they want to do better and they want to grow with the company. I always love promoting within if given the opportunity, because people want to make more money too. They want to grow in their job, and they just, everybody seems to really like their job at our company. So I like promoting within personally.
Now, and touch back on you said you really want somebody that gives a damn about their job. As as a leader and a visionary, I like how do you dream big and cast that vision out to your staff so they can care?
It's important, like, no matter what, when you dream big, I think you need to like visualize the success. So like imagine whatever the dream would look like. And you want to remind yourself of the end goal and reinforce that it can and it will happen. And when we bring people in and we first hire them, we kind of do an orientation and we set all the expectations and we let them know what their trajectory could look like with the company. Like, I have them meet everybody and they get to see what our routes look like, and I show them photos of customers' dogs. Like in our software, we can pull dog photos, and I'm just like, here's some of the customers that you'll be cleaning for, and then tell them, like, there's a lot of people that count on us to show up every day. There's a lot of people, like, we clean for all types of people from all walks of life. It could be the elderly, people who are in wheelchairs. It's really hard for them to get out there, right? We clean for people who are just busy all the time, people who just had a baby and they're too busy for that. So I tell them it's more than scooping dog poop. Like, we're all collectively here on a mission to just serve the community and do the best that we can. And then I walk them through what it could look like. So just what we just talked about, I said, here, you could be, after 3 months, you could be eligible to be a lead technician. Here's what some of the job duties would look like. After that, if you've been here at least 6 months to a year, you can be a field manager. And then keep in mind, um, we're opening new locations, and you can promote into being like an expansion manager. You could be in control of a whole region. So as we grow, I just kind of walk them through like what it would look like, and it gets them pumped up.
That's a mic drop right there. That's great. For those of you that are struggling to hire and keep employees, take some notes. Care about your people, educate your people. Give them a purpose and a reason, like you said, not just you're not just scooping dog poop. You are serving the community. You're serving your people.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I think
I love that. Ah,
there's so many times, like, I probably heard this like 300 times. Oh, that must be a shitty job. Or that must be a crappy job. I'm sure you've heard that all the time
yeah.
too. But I actually had somebody like that worked for me a week ago. They told me, like, "Hey, how many times have you heard this?" And they were new too, and they're like, "I like, oh, too many times." But they said, "Well, you know what I just say when somebody says that to me now? I'm like, hey, you know what? I love my job and they pay me well, and I wouldn't want to be doing anything else." That's what he said, and I was like, "What are you supposed to say to that when somebody says what a crappy job and then they say that? You just kind of feel bad."
I don't know. That makes me want to cry.
I know, I know.
Seriously, like that's amazing. I
And it
love
was
that.
like the best compliment. I mean, it was just, that's why I do this stuff. That's why I do this. It makes it all worth it when people say that about, like, when they work for you.
You can tell like your heart is truly in this, and that's what makes you such a good leader.
Thanks, Erica.
Yeah, you're
Thank you.
welcome. You're welcome. And so I know that you're compassionate, you love your people, but obviously you got to make some data-driven decisions. How important is it to like to know the numbers. And
Oh,
what
that's so important.
I
Like,
know.
there's so much data you can track, and it can be really overwhelming. But I think knowing the first step is knowing the data and what is actually the most important for you to track. And then once you know like what metrics to track, you can make big strides towards your goals. So, do you mind if I go over some of the things that we track?
Absolutely, because if we don't go over this, people are going to just kick me straight up out of the podcasting community. We need to know these numbers.
Okay, okay, sure. So, some of the main things we track all the time is the number of like recurring customers that we have on our census. Um, we we track how many subscriptions we sell like every day, and then we talk about it at the end of the month. Basically, okay, here's what we did. Here's what we did. Where are the leads coming from? Like, where are these people actually signups coming from? Is it a truck wrap? Is it Google? Is it Nextdoor? Is it somebody that just told their friend or their neighbor about us? So you want to know where the leads are coming from, how much the average subscription value is, like how much is the average customer, like out of 1,500 customers, what is everybody collectively on average paying per month to use our service, right? And then something that's really important as well is the number of cancellations that your company's getting, like each month, and then why they're canceling. With the cancellations, it could really depend. Like we're in the Pacific Northwest, and we have a pretty gnarly winter. We get like 50 inches of snow. So some people might cancel for the winter, or when it gets really nice outside. We had one of the hottest real estate markets in the country last year, so everybody sold their house at the top, and then they moved somewhere else. Or in the summertime, everybody's in the yard every day, so they're just going to pick up themselves. But those are some of the things we track. But the number one thing I think that's like the most important, if not one of the most important, is the churn rate that we talked about a little bit earlier. It doesn't matter like if you're Netflix or Amazon Prime, any subscription based business should really know this. And the churn rate is basically the number or the percentage of your customers that cancel relative to your total like census. Could be monthly, could be yearly, could be quarterly. The churn rate, it helps you figure out some really important things that you need to know in order to make profitable decisions for your business and scale. So like two of those things, if you know the churn rate, you can figure out what the lifetime value is of your own customer. So basically, like how much money are they going to pay you on average from the day they sign up until the day they cancel on average. So the lifetime value, and then it'll let you know how much money you can spend on advertising or marketing to acquire a customer. Because like if you don't know the lifetime value of what a customer's worth, how do you know how much money you're supposed to spend to acquire them or get them through the door? Right? Whether you're doing door hangers, I spent $1,000 on door hangers and I spent 6 hours handing them out and I paid somebody at 25 bucks an hour to do that. Like, how do you know how much money you can possibly spend before you're losing money acquiring a customer, right? So, if we can we do like a churn rate example?
Of course.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So it's pretty simple. You want to take the number of customers you started with at the beginning of the month. So, like, let's do an example together, Erica. What number do you want to pick? Like, how much clients do you want this person to start with at the beginning of the month?
Let's start with 150 customers.
Okay, so we have 150 customers, and then you want to add the number of customers you end with at the month. So we started with 150, and then how many do you want to end with that month?
Are we going to go up or go down? Are we going to
Let's just go up, I
Okay,
guess.
let's go up to 60, 160.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you add 150 and 160, and then you want to divide it by two. The reason you divide it by two is you want to get an average of how many customers you maintained through the month. So the beginning and the end, and then you take that, divide it by two. So if you add 150 and 160, you get 310, and we're going to divide that by two, and then we get 155. So that's how many customers we maintained on average through the month. Let me write that down. Now, how many customers and then we want to take how many customers canceled. So how many customers do you want us to have canceled for this month?
5.
Five. Okay. So we're going to take the five cancellations for the month and then we're going to divide it into that 155, the average that we got. And let's see what we get. So your average monthly churn for that month is basically 3%, which is quite good. If you have a 3% churn rate, you're doing pretty well. Okay, so we have the churn rate now. That's just for the month, though. The more data you have on this, the more it's going to benefit you because you might have churned 3% this month, but maybe it was like it's about to snow for me, and you want to have like concrete data from the beginning of the year if you can, just to guess because I might in the springtime, we might churn like 12% because everybody's moving or they're canceling or whatever, right? So the more information you have, if you can do a 12-month period, the more helpful it is. So what we have now is a 3%. So let's just use this example again then. That's the churn rate. And then now let's figure out the lifetime value. So you want to take your average monthly subscription value. So how much is a customer paying on average per month for this person's service?
$90 a month.
Okay, so they're paying $90 a month, and then you want to divide that number by the churn rate, the 3% we just got. So we'll do 90 divided by 0.03. And that gives us the number 3,000, which is, according to just this month's worth of data, the lifetime value of the customer is $3,000. And a rule of thumb is generally you want to spend about 10% of the lifetime value, no more than 10% to acquire a customer. So if we had $3,000, 10% of that, we can spend $300 to get a customer, whether it's yard signs, door hangers, Google ads, right? Next door. And then if you spend about 10%, um, you won't have a lot of strain on your cash flow, and then you can profitably acquire customers and just keep doing the same thing over again. One more thing I want to show on that too is I want to show you how much the lifetime value changes relative to the churn. So let's take the example of the $90. When we divided by 0.03, it was $3,000, right?
Mhm.
So let's take that 90. Let's pick a different churn rate. How about like 5%?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do 90 divided by 0.05. It's just a 2% difference. The lifetime value now is $1,800. So
That's
even
huge.
like, yeah, really though, this is like massive. So even like a little tweak with like a percentage, I mean, we're talking like 20, 30% of the lifetime value. So basically the easiest way you can make your business more profitable right off the start is trying to reduce your churn rate, whether that's being on top of cancellations. It's like it's easy when you're small, right? It's really
Mhm.
easy. Sometimes if you're getting like 4 cancellations a month, it's easy just to say, "Oh, no problem, John Doe. We'll hopefully you sign back up in the future." But like at our size, we get like 50 cancellations a month, right? So it's just a lot of money going out the door. But it's all to scale, right? It doesn't matter. But the point is you need to be on top of saving cancellations as much as you can to make sure your business it's a lot cheaper to keep a customer happy than to buy a new one is my whole point.
Isn't that what they say about ex-wives or wives? It's cheaper to keep her. I've heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
I don't remember where I heard that, but that's funny. Hey,
But
it
yes,
it
so
translates.
I encourage people to play around with it a little bit. I mean, even a percent of the churn rate makes a massive impact on how profitable your business is and how long people stay.
Oh, this is huge. I'm hoping that when I look in my analytics for this episode, I have a huge spike for like the past 8 minutes because people keep rewinding and going back and listening to this because that's some good stuff right there.
Yeah, hopefully I explained it okay.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you. Now, say for instance, if a listener is like, I don't get it. How do they get in touch with you to talk about it further?
Yeah, my email is Levi, Levi at swoopscoop.com, SWOOP scoop.com, Levi at Swoop Scoop. I'd be more than happy to, I'm just here to help. So I'd be more than happy to talk to somebody for like 15 minutes and answer any questions you have.
All right, cool. I'll make sure to put your information down in the bottom. We're getting close to wrapping up, but I did have a couple like last questions. I know we talked about you have a big business, right? We talked about big business, but what about for the littler guy that's stuck around like $100,000, $90,000 a year, and they're so stuck and they can't get out? What advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I think you should, if you're not tracking some of these numbers, like how many customers you're getting, where they're coming from, how many cancellations, I think you really need to start tracking your numbers and stay consistent with it, right? It's just like anything. You need to stay consistent with it. If it seems kind of overwhelming at the start, I think you should start with, even for like the first couple months, start with a few metrics, like how many did I close, how many people canceled, and then where did they come from. Start with a few metrics and then add more as you become like, okay, cool, I can do this. This isn't too much for me to like handle, and then like start tracking your churn and stuff. So start small and then add more over time if you feel like it's just a lot to handle. I think also you need to make sure your office line's being answered. I'm sure I've had plenty of experiences where I try to call like a lawn mowing company or some sort of company and nobody answers the phone. It's just you're going to go somewhere else, right? If you want to grow, you need to make sure your office phone is being answered. I think you shouldn't be afraid to raise your prices. You need to be able to keep up with inflation. Everything's getting more expensive, and you can do a lot of things with the extra capital. You can grow your business, pay your people more. I think you should also offer different cleanup options. If you're only doing like the weekly cleanup, it's like a nice way to try to save cancellations. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I'd be happy to cancel your account out for you, but just before you go, I just wanted to mention that I see you're on the weekly plan for $100 a month. Did you know we have an every 2 weeks cleanup plan for $85, or we have a once a month plan for $70? Giving people options will help reduce the churn rate, and also they probably still want the service, but sometimes people just $100 is a little bit too much. So giving them options can go a long way too with growing your business. Like a fourth of our census is every 2 week cleanups, right? So I think there's a lot of money just sitting on the table if you're not offering other cleanup options. Try your best to save every client that wants to cancel. Doesn't mean you have to save everybody, but at least as long as you put in the effort, that's what I tell my office. As long as you tried your best, there's nothing else we can do, right? Um, and I think you should have a really good follow-up procedure in place for people that inquire about the service, like they called the office and then they didn't immediately sign up. Like put them in the calendar, put them on a spreadsheet, call them like 3 days later, and hey, Mrs. Jones, just checking in to see, did you have time to talk to your husband, right? And then following up with them, and then also, I guess lastly, find out who's kind of dominating your market or at least like near you, and like go to their Google business page and read some of the reviews, right? Like you'll find a lot of gems. Like why are people so in love with this company? Is it that they send on the way text? They send gate photos? Is it because that they have a card on file and they don't have to even think about the service anymore? So figure out like what all these reviews are 5 stars for, and then maybe you can implement some of those things in your business.
Woo! Yes, do all of that. All
That was a
all
lot.
of it. No, that was good. The closed gate photos is huge. And then the tracking of the numbers. What would you say, like our little last wrap up? What would you say to the person that's like, ah, tracking all those numbers is so hard. I don't
Mhm.
have time for that. What would you say to that business owner?
I think you should find some sort of platform that can automatically do that for you. Like whatever software you're doing, just ask them and see if they have like a dashboard where that those metrics can be tracked. Like for example, the software that we use, whether it's Jobber or Yardbook, we use Sweep and Go. They have an automated like dashboard where it just automatically shows us those kinds of numbers, the cancellations, where everything's coming from. So it just makes the job a little bit easier, and it's worth it to us just to have that information available like that.
Quick plug, if you're interested in using Jabber, click my link down in the description to get your 14-day free trial. But definitely check around for the different CRMs. If you're not using one, if you're a pen and paper, writing stuff down on a napkin and a notebook, stop. You need to have a software. Just figure out the right one for you and for your business. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. This was amazing. I feel like we could chat forever, but do you have any last words for our listeners?
No, thank you for having me. I don't do this very often. I was a little bit nervous, but I hope I provided some value for you guys. I really appreciate Erica having me on too. I like I said, I've been a long time supporter of your channel, and I think it's amazing what you're doing just for the industry. I think we're all, whether you have a company now or you're thinking about doing one, I think it's a great industry to be in. Everybody's really friendly, and I think it's poised to grow. Like the industry's been around for so long, but I think the market's just widening open. Like we even have a bunch of 25-year-olds who might have not used the service in the past. It's just kind of wide open now. We're in that day and age. It's all about convenience. There's Uber Eats, there's grocery food delivery. This is almost kind of one of those services that it's just nice to be able to outsource because it is a very disliked chore in the household. So I think it's a great industry to be in, and I wish you all success in it. And if you ever want to talk or need questions answered, just shoot me an email.
Yes, and I will include all of his information, all of his contact information down in the links. I want to thank you so much, Levi, for educating and hanging out with all of us. And until next time, you guys, bye.